So if any of you guys have followed me for any significant amount of time, you would have heard me say this many, many, many times. The process is not natural. We don't naturally seek process. If we're in groups, we tend to resist process until we are convinced otherwise. And to prove this, I have two metaphors for you to consider. The first metaphor is the metaphor of the protest. Now, current politics notwithstanding, when you have a protest, you have many, many people who are highly ideologically aligned and highly, highly motivated, okay? But the best thing you can get them to do is maybe move in the same direction, maybe chant the same chant. It's very difficult to get a group this way, despite ideological alignment and passion to do the right thing, to actually do the right thing at scale, to do the things we want them to do at scale. But if you contrast that with the metaphor of the marching band, here you can have a group of people who are maybe passionate, but they're certainly not all ideologically aligned. You could have Christians beside Muslims. You can have Democrats beside Republicans. You can have people of all sorts of ideological beliefs that have nothing to do with each other except within the band. And yet, the band can do all kinds of complex things. We can have drummers beside trumpeters, and everybody's singing the same song, or rather playing the same song in time. And they're also marching in time. And they can also turn corners all at once. They can do a wide range of complex things, despite the fact that they're not ideologically aligned. So how is it that a marching band can do that and a protest can't? Well, that all comes down to process, which requires effort and energy to dig into. And all this to say is that you cannot afford to set up processes in ServiceNow that don't have measures of where your energy is being invested and what outcome is manifesting because of that energy. Okay, so outcomes is the name of the game when you're doing reporting. And why is it that a marching band can do all those complex things and a protest can't? Is because they know what to measure. So they know what outcomes are good, they know what outcomes are bad, and they measure those consistently and react to the results of those measures. So the first thing that your reporting program has to do is understand the outcomes of the processes that you're supporting so that you can improve the outcomes. So how do things improve exactly? Because you don't want to just quote unquote do reporting and just have, you know, one chart after another that's just total by priority and total by category. That doesn't speak to improvement. How do things improve? Things improve by getting more of what we want, okay? So we can talk about speed, like are these things being finished quickly enough, consistency, accuracy, quality, safety, uniformity, compliance. These are quality measures, and these are things that you can improve. And it's important that we prove these things at scale. So think about these types of qualities for the processes that you support with your reporting program. Okay, so examples of this might be, okay, for incident management, what makes incident management outcomes good or bad? Well, incident management is about restoring service, so the speed at which we can restore service really matters, or the speed between updates, or the speed at which we can respond to an incident event. So incident might be very much about speed, but it can also be about uniformity. How come these CIs always fail and these CIs don't always fail? Let's talk about change. What's change about? Making sure that we can make changes to our organization with minimal impact to the org. So we want to know how much prep time are we usually having for change? What percentage of our changes are scheduled as emergency? What percentage of our changes fail? What percentage of our emergency changes fail? These are all things that we can improve upon and speak to the quality of the process. Now, as you start thinking about the outcomes that matter within a process, you'll start to find that you can group those types of reports into 4 types of report. Okay, so this is a mindset shift. If you start thinking about all your reports in your program in terms of these 4, it makes it a lot easier to organize and deploy. And so my contention is that there's only really 4 types of report. There is a report that helps you know what work to do, manage your work. Okay, so this would be what tasks do I have and what tasks should I do next is all the nuance you need there. Okay. The next is to maximize good outcomes. Again, we talk about change management. If I can lower or if I can increase the speed at which I resolve incidents, or the speed at which I respond to chat requests, or the speed at which I fulfill requests, I'm maximizing a good outcome, because the outcome that we want is speed. The next kind of report is to minimize bad outcomes. And this might be something to the extent of, I don't want any of my incidents to go beyond a day or 2 without an update, especially the high priority ones. So a report that shows me the update, the amount of time between updates for different priorities would be a minimized bad outcome report. And then the final type of report, I think, which we should be most mindful of, because it is the most common kind of report outside of managing work, is insight mines. And I use this metaphor very purposely, because an insight mine is a place where we go into a dark unknown area and we just mine and chip away at something until hopefully we find something valuable. Okay, and insight mine reports are the kinds of things, it comes from a mindset of, if I just get enough chart types and filters on a dashboard, then anybody could use it to get the insights that they want. You know, you see it like this kind of chart. And with enough time and energy, you'd look at this and say, oh yeah, okay, I know what's going on now. And you'd have several tabs, and this is basically your area to go and find the insight yourself. It's got nothing to do with these are good outcomes, bad outcomes, and here they are directly in front of you. We're doing good, we're doing bad. This is more to do with you find the insight. I also call this one report to rule them all, where we have lists, maybe some counters and a couple charts, and then a heap of slicey dicey filters. Okay, they aren't bad in and of themselves, but they put all the effort onto the report user in order to find the value. So by all means, build insight mines, but make sure that you're also building your outcome reports. Okay, this is an example of a bad insight mine. So it's got new incidents weekly, resolved incidents weekly, and open tickets weekly. And it's all kind of organized in a sense that you can't, like, if you just looked at this long enough, you would be thinking, I don't understand what this is telling me. Okay, so as you're building your reports, understand that you're building for human beings. You have to be able to look at that report and see what's going on, get the story of that report. And I'll counterbalance this with a good example of a report, and this is pulled from performance analytics, but this is measuring the number of incidents that haven't been opened in 30 days. So just by the fact that that is moving up gives me just the heebie-jeebies. That's a bad sign. But if I looked at this even closer, I would see that it's an increasing amount of my percentage of open incidents. So this is my open incidents, and this is my open incidents that haven't been updated in 30 days. So most of them haven't been updated in 30 days. And I also see that somebody put a threshold in there that says, hey, look, I don't want more than 25 of these. So I'm even beyond the threshold. And I can see that, you know, almost a month ago, someone also put in a target of 10. Somebody deliberately built in a process to try and reduce this, and we are still increasing. So this tells a human emotional story that we can get invested in. There's a big problem here, and it's only getting worse despite efforts to the contrary. So as you build your reports, keep the idea of you're tuning for humans. Okay. And one thing we talked about on that report was the thresholds and targets, right? So I would say embrace the idea of targets and thresholds. A lot of teams will say, well, my team, I can't have my team being set to the same standard as your team, right? And then whole reporting paradigms get stymied at that point. And it's because we have this idea that A, somebody's going to whack us with a stick if we're beyond thresholds or targets, and B, that targets are permanent and immutable. And I want you to think about targets and thresholds as lines in the sand. You draw a line in the sand and you say, this is where we want to be, okay? And if you're not at that point, then you either alter the process to improve or alter the target to be better. Just draw another line in the sand. So targets and thresholds are not immutable. And once you draw them in the sand, it gives you, you're either increasing performance or making better targets and assumptions. So in your reporting programs, once you know the outcomes you're wanting to measure and you've got reports set up such that people can see the progress towards those on those outcomes, do not be afraid to talk about targets and thresholds to give it context. Okay, now as we start thinking about the reports that we would put in front of people, it's very important to understand that there's essentially 3 different types of persona when you are building reports, okay? They are the operator, the analyst, and the stakeholder. The operator is the person that gets the stuff done. Okay, these are on your service desk. These are your service desk agents. In your field services, these are the people that hop in the van and go with all the tools and get the thing fixed. Okay, they are wall to wall executing, so they have no time to do trend analysis. They have no time to find things that run counter to our thresholds and targets. Okay, what the operator needs is a report that tells them what is the next important thing. What is the next most important thing? So we get by with this very, very well with lists and scores. So the idea is like, here's your list of your work. Here's some scores, drive the red ones down to 0, and we will be okay. That's what the operator persona craves. And this is just a sample of a kind of an operator dashboard that I built in exactly 10 minutes, 1 hour ago. On VividCharts, I should say. Yes, it's a VividCharts dashboard here. You can see we've got different colors and styles going on, but the idea is counters and lists win the day. Okay, the next persona is the analyst, and the analyst job is not to get in the guts and the list of everything. I don't want to, the analyst shouldn't see a list of all the tickets or tasks that have gone through the process. What they need to find out is, are we improving and degrading on those measures we said are the things we want to avoid or get closer to? So the importance of the maximizing good outcomes, minimizing bad outcomes, it's the analyst's job to find out, are we getting better or worse, and to what degree? And what should we worry about right now? And so an analyst craves an interface that allows them to dig or visualize data at scale. So they have the Analytics Hub in ServiceNow, and we also have a number of visualizations within VividCharts to give some extra weight to performance analytics data. And then lastly, we have the stakeholder, and this one often gets conflated with the analyst, but you got to think of the stakeholder as not necessarily the C-suite or senior leadership. It's anyone that has to make decisions from the analysis. People who will redirect resources or attention or take new actions based off of what they see from the analysis. And they do not have the time to do the analysis themselves. This is why they're never satisfied with insight mines. Okay, they may even be politically separate from the analyst. So you wouldn't, if you like, you would never put in front of an external customer a dashboard with a ton of widgets. You would want to determine the story first and then put that story in front of the users. And stakeholders is a place where VividCharts plays very, very nicely, because we can get all the analysis done and then we could just wrap it inside of a narrative experience so we can tell them the story that we've discovered with the analysis. So what now? I've thrown a ton of concepts at you. How can you take those concepts and improve your reporting program from where you're at right now? So first and foremost, understand the process outcomes. If you're like the ServiceNow lead of the team and you're not the process person, that's fine. Engage in the conversation with the process owners. Why does your process exist at all? That will help you determine the processes and outcomes that you're trying to measure. Know your personas of the people you talk to in that process area. Who are the stakeholders, the analysts, and the operators? Then build reporting assets for each of them. We showed you a operator dashboard. We showed you some graphs that the analyst could use, and we showed you an experience that a stakeholder would love. Remember to build for human consumptions. You don't want people to stare at a graph and wonder, what the heck is this? It's got, the graph itself has got to tell a story. Keep the narrative going against targets and thresholds so you have a context for, are you improving enough or are you degrading too much? And by all means, please tell the story with VividCharts. All right, we have time for a real short Q&A, and then Mitch is going to take us for a tour of our chart API. So is there any questions? Can we have a copy of Robert's slides? I love this roll and sample. We could have a really good conversation with our leadership so we can get away from one, one dashboard to rue them all. Absolutely, Tracy. I'm happy to send that to you. Anybody else who wants this slide deck, please drop your email in chat as well, and we can get that to you.